I was born the ninth child of a Kurdish mother and an Arab father in Erbil, the capital of Kurdish region in Iraq. Doctors predicted that I would die, like my other two baby sisters. But I survived, so my mother named me Faiza, the winner. In 1980, the Iraqi Iran war started. Our neighborhood and schools were bombed by jet planes on multiple occasions. It lasted for 8 horrific years, but I made it through. I got into Mosul University, one of Iraqi's top schools. Because of major knee surgery, my doctor told me I'd never be able to play sports again. But being the winner, I joined the Mosul University women's basketball and volleyball teams. In a conservative community where few women participated in athletics or appeared on stage, I had leading roles with my college English theater team. In 1991, the first Gulf War broke out. I was in my second year of college. Our lives were devastated. Then there was the Kurdish uprising, which was crushed by the Iraqi military, resulted in 1 million Kurds fled to the borders of Turkey and Iran. Then it followed by a brutal sanction. After graduation, I worked as an interpreter for an American NGO at Erbil Children's Hospital. Every day, I had to return to work despite seeing children die of starvation. I started to feel numb and lifeless inside, like the frantic women staring at their malnourished children. I wanted to shake things up, so I proposed making short plays at the hospital, combining Kurdish folk tales with health education messages. A group of actors and I staged our first play for the mothers. And due to our success, UNICEF offered us a monthly TV and radio show. We started with a radio show and it was very successful. In August 1996, a civil war broke out between the two major Kurdish parties, which allowed Iraqi troops to take over my city, executing 700 Kurds and Iraqi opposition groups in a field. The translators were next. Sadly, the night before, the international team had abandoned us, leaving us to our fate. We sought refuge in a safe house in a small town near the Turkish border. 3 months later, the US troops began evacuating us from the Turkish border in Operation Safe Haven. We started an uncertain journey to Guam to process our political asylum applications. I volunteered as an interpreter for US immigration agents who were assisting my people. When my application was approved, the immigration manager assigned me to assist 80 families relocating to the United States. He shook my hand and handed me a folded $20 bill before we left. With $20 in my pocket and a smile on my face, I left for the land of hope and dreams. Our first destination was San Francisco, where the International Organization for Migration, IOM, greeted us at the airport. Just minutes after landing, the manager offered me a job as an interpreter for $9 per an hour. My final destination was Seattle, so I had to fly there. My Canadian brother was taken away by how I looked when he met me at the airport. He stated I wouldn't be able to find work if I wore a scarf. I told him I had a job lined up in San Francisco and I had to fly back in 2 days. After my job was done in San Francisco, I traveled back to Seattle and started a new job as a public health interpreter. That was the beginning of my personal and professional journey. I got married, had 2 children, and bought my first house while working full time in different jobs. After 7 years of marriage, I became a single mother with 2 small children. My ex husband warned me I'd lose the house and the children before he left. To pay my mortgage and childcare, I took on 2 jobs. Beside my full time job as a curriculum developer and instructor, I worked as a court interpreter and freelance translator. Soon, my client base grew and my company, Translation for All, was established. I remarried to a great man who believed in me, had two more children, kept the first house, and began investing on other properties. Despite the limitation imposed on me, I had achieved several career milestones. My company localized the first LG Kurdish phone, which was presented to the Kurdish Prime Minister by LG's CEO. I evaluated and approved the style guide and glossary for Microsoft Office 13 Kurdish localization project as the Kurdish language moderator. In addition, I transcribed and translated high case profile national security cases. I also managed large translation and interpretation contracts awarded to my company by local and federal governments. I also managed several international contracts for USAID and UNDP in the Middle East and Afghanistan. I was invited to the White House as one of the business leaders to meet with Obama's administration. To bridge the gap between East and West, I started Darsafi, a publishing house devoted to translating Arabic literature into English. I delivered a speech at the Library of Congress on the topic of promoting Arabic culture through translation. I started writing poetry again. I've published two collections of poetry and translated two others. My poetry took me to perform at UNESCO in Paris and at a school on the border between El Salvador and Honduras, where students were exposed to Arabic poetry for the first time. It was vital to me to give back to my community, so as president of the Northwest Interpreters and Translators Society, notice, I founded and administrated the Arabic division with American Translators Association ATA. I won the election and served 2 terms on the ATA board of directors. In 2017, I took a job as an instructor with NYU's translation program. Then I moved to California to work at Raytheon, where I built their translation and quality program. Finally, in 2020, I accepted a job at Amazon Web Services and returned to school for a master's degree in leadership and management. Thanks to all who believed in me, and they are few. I am currently leading the quality program for AWS training and certification. I'm also working towards my Harvard Business School online strategy certification. I leave you with a quote by Miranda Merritt that sums up my experience. I choose to live by choice, not by chance, to make changes, not excuses, to be motivated, not manipulated, to be useful, not used, to excel, not to compete. I choose self-esteem, not self-pity. I choose to listen to my inner voice, not the random opinion of others. I choose to be me.